Hey everybody, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be making the ultimate Rust hosting tutorial. I'm going to be covering everything from getting the server started to basic RustAdmin things to custom maps and how to run them to how to make your server public so other people can join and a lot of things around little tips here and there. So hopefully this will give you a really broad understanding of how to run and manage your own Rust server. If you're unfamiliar with me and my channel, my name is Ted, welcome. And I already been making Rust hosting tutorials and Rust map making tutorials for 2 years. So if you go to my channel, I will have more tutorials on certain topics already. And this is going to be hopefully a all-encompassing thing of all my Rust hosting tutorials in one video. So if you look in the video description, there will be timestamps and you can click on those if you want to rewatch or just watch a certain topic. If you want to skip something or you are already at a certain point, you can dive exactly into whatever you want to see. So I am first going to talk about a few things broadly, just to get you in an overall view of what you're getting yourself into. And then we are actually going to do things step by step. So first of all, there is this great article by RustAdmin. I will link that in the video description. Most of the things and links that I'm talking about in the video, I will try to put in the video description. So really take a good look at the video description. If there are any things unclear or like people have the same question over and over on this video, I will probably put the link or the fix in the description or either as a pinned comments. So just look a little bit and there will probably be an answer for you already. And also watch the whole thing. If you're asking me something that I explain in the video, I will not be replying. I used to do that. It's not happening anymore. So this RustAdmin article shows you step by step in a written way what we are basically going to be doing right now. If you have no clue what you're doing and you're just starting out, it can be a little bit of a lot of information. So we're just going to do things step by step. Once you watch this whole video, this should all make a lot more sense. The next thing we're going to be using is Steam CMD. This also seems a lot more confusing than it is. It's actually very easy, but we have to use this to download the Rust server files. Then we have RustAdmin, which is the program you will use or you can use to do certain things like teleport players or tons of things you can do with this. Also set up your server, and I will also briefly show you how to connect to your server and what you can do with this. Then nextly, we got my YouTube channel. Like I said, I've been making tutorials for a long time, and there are several topics and things. If you go to my Rust hosting tutorial playlist, there are several things and tutorials that already go in depth in certain things. If this tutorial doesn't do those certain topic justice, please take a look at my channel if I already made a video on that topic. Nextly, there is corrosionhour.com, which has a ton of guides and things you can learn, and also has the Rust server admin part. For example, all these RustAdmin comments you can run, and this also can be a little bit confusing, but I will also show you how to set these up or how to use these. But this list is pretty invaluable if you're a RustAdmin. Then next we have umod, which is the framework where all the plugins run on, and that's what you're going to be installing. And umod is also the website where you will be downloading most of your plugins. And then install them on your server. Then lastly, there is RustEdit, which is the program you use to create custom maps, and you don't have to create the custom maps if you want to run them. You don't need RustEdit if you want to run a custom map on your server. But if you want to make edits to a map or make your own map, you do need RustEdit. And once again, I do have a lot of RustEdit, even a beginner's guide or beginner's course on my channel if you're interested in that. But those are like the tools we are going to be using in this video, and you kind of know where to go if you're looking for an admin tool, get RustAdmin, etc., etc. Okay, so let's start getting the server files and getting the actual server running, and then step by step learn a bit more. So you're going to need Steam, like normal, your Rust, and if you are trying to run a cracked server, I will not help you, so please don't ask me on my tutorials. So you're going to need Steam and the updated version of Rust that you buy it like normal. We're going to be using Steam CMD, which I will show you in a second. That will download the Rust dedicated server for us. And then optionally, you have the Rust edit launcher, like I said, to edit the custom maps, if that's also what you want to do. This is optional. And then also optional is my program that helps you set up the server in just 3 clicks. And this is also what we are going to be using, but I will also show you how to do this manually if you don't want to use my program for whatever reason. So I imagine you have Steam and Rust installed, because that makes sense. You don't need to own Rust, or don't even need to have Steam installed to just only run the server. So if your friend has a good computer and he wants to host the server, but he doesn't own Rust, he could still just do this process and it would all work fine. So keep that in mind. I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm just going to call this tutorial. It needs to be one word, so don't put a space, tutorial 1 or something. Just make sure it's one word, otherwise my program is not well made enough to work. So you're going to need winrar. If you don't have winrar, go to rarlab.com, click on downloads, click on the winrar 64-bit version, and download and install that. You're going to open up your folder that you made. You're going to double click on the download that is in the video description. And you're going to just select them all and drag them in. Then we are going to run my program. First, we have to download the files. So click on download server files. This will automatically create a Steam CMD folder for us, and it will put the Steam CMD program in there, and it will automatically create a update server batch file. And it will run that, and that will automatically start downloading the newest version of Steam CMD. So first it's updating itself, which is what you can see right now. And then after that, it's going to search for the update for the Rust files. So now it's connecting anonymously to Steam. It says logged in, okay. Waiting for user info. Okay. And now it will automatically start downloading all the Rust server files. It's first going to pre-allocate it. So basically check if there's enough space on our hard disk, then kind of preserve that space. And then it will start downloading, as you can see right now, downloading those files to our folder. So that's all for Steam CMD. And if we go out of the Steam CMD folder, you can see that there is a Rust server files folder here. And this is where it's starting to download these files to. So this is where your actual server file, the Rust dedicated.exe file, is going to be hosted or located, whatever. So this program, which I made, does this all automatically for you. And if you don't want to do that, what you will have to do is, so once again, if you just done this, this is just optional. If you don't want to use my program and you want to do it manually, this is how you do it. You would make a Steam CMD folder. You would go to the Steam CMD website and download Steam CMD for Windows. See, download Steam CMD. Put that in your folder. That's the Steam CMD file. You will have to make a batch file by just going right-click, new, then opening it up. And what you will have to put in there is this. And I will put it in screen so you can see it clearly. This is basically telling the Steam CMD exe to log in first and then force a directory. So this is where it's going to install the files to, and it's going to install app 258550, which is the Rust server files. And when it's done, it's going to automatically close itself. So that's also what we're going to see. Once this is done, it should automatically close itself. So if you do that manually, you don't want to use my program for whatever reason, I can assure you it's 100% safe. I have no ill intentions and I have more to lose than to gain. This program also has a lot of useful programs and basically all the things that I just showed you, plus a few more if you are interested in using this. It could be really beneficial if you are a noob and you just want to have your own server and mess around. Anyway, no need in using this if you don't want to. The next step is, because it's done, it's downloaded it, it says go to step 3, which is how bad it is because it's step 2. That's how bad my program is programmed. Anyway, we need to create a start file, because if we go out of our Steam CMD folder, we go back to the Rust server folders, we can see that there's a Rust dedicated.exe now. And this is our server application, but you don't start the application itself, because you basically want to tell it what server name, what password, etc., what properties you want to set on that server. So we need to create a start file. Once again, there are several ways of doing this. If you go to the Rustified, where is it? Here it says the batch script, which is the start file. You can just copy it from here. You can also go to my Discord, and there you can either download the batch files. If you go to this info and announcements, you can download them. This is the update file, so you put that in your Steam CMD folder. That's the one I just showed you. You can download this. You can see that if that's this one with the underscore. You can see that if I right click edit this, all it does is the same thing as the other start file. So you can also do that manually. And also these are all the individual start files. If you don't want to download anything, you can also go to server batch settings. You can just copy it here, put this in, and that should also do the trick. Just edit whatever you want. But that requires you a little bit of knowing what to do, and make sure you keep all the spaces in there, all the quotes in there, and don't mess any of the format, otherwise it will not work. So if you are new, you can just use this and set your properties here, and it will assure that it doesn't mess up the format, and it will spit out a start file also in the proper location. So let's just do that. Either way, create your start file and put it in the Rust server files folder, in the folder with your Rust dedicated.exe. So in my case, I'm going to set the name to tutorial 2020. And I'm going to leave my passport. I'm going to leave the picture. And if you would like to, you can also set a custom map or a different kind of map. These are all the types of maps. And the program will automatically spit out a start file in the proper format. So it should all work. I'm just going to create a normal procgen. If you go to playrust.io and click on map gallery on the right, you can choose a size. So let's set it to 4000 for now. If you don't have that good of a computer, you might want to set it a little bit lower. The bigger the map, the harder it's going to be for your computer to run it. So you can look at the map, you can click on it to see it even bigger. And if you find a layout you like, you can just take the size, which is 4000, because we set it to 4000, and then set the seed to 10. So let's do that. Going to set the size to 4000 and the seed to 10. You can change the max players. Let's just set it to 50. And I'm not that amazing. So let's click on generate. And if we go to our Rust server folder, there should be a start file procgen, because that's what we chose here. If we do custom map, I'm not going to do anything. It will say start file custom map, but that's not properly set up, so that won't work right now. So that's basically all you do. If you, once again, want to do it manually, just do new text folder, open it up, get your start file information either from Rustified or from my Discord or whatever you get it from, put it in the text file, and then save it as whatever .bat. So that way you do it manually and you don't have to use my computer, have to use my program. Once again, I'm not forcing you at all. And my program does nothing you cannot do manually. It's just an easy step for people. And I try to include some nice tips and like sites you probably want to know if you're a new Rust server owner. Anyway, let's start our server by just double-clicking the start file. Once again, you never double-click the Rust dedicated or start the Rust dedicated. You always start it through a start file. This should take a second, and we will have a server identity set to procgen. So if we go into we are in our Rust server files with the Rust dedicated, and we go to our server folder, there should be a folder named whatever our identity is. So in this case, procgen. Inside that folder, it's now creating our actual server files. So with these server files, you can have multiple servers. So yeah, it's still creating stuff, and there will be a message coming up, which is where a lot of people are confused. And my computer is pretty good, so it shouldn't be there that long, but for you, it might stay there a little bit. The message should be coming up right now-ish. This one, couldn't load server. The .sav file doesn't exist. So since I have a 4K map, it's probably gonna, go away right now. If you get this message, just click allow. As you can see, this is the Rust dedicated.exe. This has nothing to do with my program. Once again, it says here Bradley spawned, and that's usually what I look for to see that the server is fully connected and started up. If you have Oxide installed, it should also say loaded Oxide, etc. But we will look at that in another. We will look at that in a second. So let's go to Steam and just start up Rust, and we try to connect to our server. Okay, so we are in Rust. We're going to press F1. We type connect localhost :28015. If you, for some reason, change the port to something else, of course, change 28015 to your port, but you probably didn't change it. So this should allow you to connect to your server as long as the server is running on the same computer as you are trying to connect to. So my Rust and the server are running on the same computer. That's the only reason this is working. Okay, so we are connected. As you can see here, we are in the server. And actually, the first thing I'm going to do is disconnect. So I'm going to press F1 and type disconnect. And we're disconnected. And I'm then going to Alt-Tab out of Rust and just go to my server. And you would see here, it says my IP, which is my local IP in this case, because like I said, it's on the same computer. And then you can see my Steam ID. So I'm going to highlight that, just the numbers, not the slashes, and press Ctrl-C to copy it, and then type owner ID, space, and then Ctrl-V to paste it. And it says edit owner, unnamed, because I didn't give it a name, because it's not necessary. And then my Steam ID. So now, if I reconnect, just press arrow up to go through the comments that I used, to use the connect comment again. If I then go back to my server, it will say I have auth level 2. And the first time it didn't say that I have that. You can see here, joint. It didn't say that I have auth level 2. And that basically means that I am now a owner or a admin, whatever you want to call it. So if I would now close my server and start it up again, my server would forget that I'm owner. So to save it, I do write cfg like this, and it just says config saved. And now if I would restart my server, it would remember that I'm admin, and I don't have to keep re-giving myself and all my friends admin. So every time you remove or add an admin, you can just make sure you save it. If you want to remove someone, you can do remove owner and then Steam ID, and it says removed the owner, and then again do the write CFG, so it saves it. So now I'm not owner anymore. Anyway, we want to be owner. Also, it doesn't doesn't make me or it doesn't take away my rights if I'm on the server. So even though I'm not admin technically anymore now, I can still spawn in stuff. Only if I disconnect and then reconnect, it will check again if I'm owner, and it will not allow me to do these things anymore because I'm not owner anymore. So if you have like a rogue admin or you want to remove someone, what you want to do is after you remove them, just do kick and their Steam ID. Oh, I pressed something. Kick and their Steam ID, and it would kick me out of the server. And if I now try to reconnect by doing F1 again, going to the console and doing connect, it would say I am not owner, and I would not be able to spawn in anything again. So it basically only checks if you are admin once you connect. So if you are on the server while giving you admin or giving a friend admin permission, make sure they rejoin the server, otherwise it will not kick in. So let's give ourselves admin again and let's join the server. And I know I didn't do the save command, but I hope that was clear to do that every time. Okay, so we are owner. I can fly. Can I also spawn stuff in now? Yes. Okay, so it's back to normal. So if you missed that, press F1 and you got all the items and you can just click on it to get it. You can also click on 100 to get 100 of it or 1k to get 1,000 of it. Let's say you have 1,000 landmines and you want to have them all in your hotbar. It's going to be annoying to try to get them in. So what you do is you just put something in your hotbar that's only one and you just swap it with that. That way you can just use it. So yeah, great explanation. So let's talk about comments. So what we can do, we can type no clip. Oh, come on. And we can make pigs disappear. I'll teach you how in a second. So F1, no clip, and then you can fly. And then if you press type no clip again or just press S arrow up, you can turn it on and off, which is nice, but it's a lot better to have it binded to a key. So I have it binded to L. If I press L, I can just fly. If I press K, I can delete entities, so like trees and boars and whatever and whatnot, and also building parts and stuff like that. And then if I press P, I have my camera, which allows me to do cinematic things and also fly around without having people knowing that I'm flying around. So if I'm adminning and I'm spectating someone, I don't want them to see me, I can just either, if I have a plugin, go and vanish. Otherwise, I can just also do it like this because they don't see anything if I'm just a camera. So how do you do that? You press F1 and you type bind and then the key. So for my case, it's L and then no clip. Or if you want to do the killing, it's whatever key you want. For me it's K, and then end.kill, I think it is. Is it end.kill or is it end space kill? Let's have a look. Look at a tree. End space kill. Yeah, okay, so it's end space kill. So you would do bind bind K end space kill. And then if you walk up to something and you press K, it will delete it. So if you're building something, you can really easily destroy it without having to get a hammer, have building privilege, whatever. You can just instantly break it. Watch out with that because you can also accidentally press it and, for example, remove a recycler. And if you do that on a live server, you are toast. So be careful with that because there's no easy way of getting that back without manually with the plugin or something placing it back. And for the camera, it's bind P or any key you want, and then one word debug camera. And that will allow you to press P and have the camera and press P again to remove it. Another thing is pressing F3. Oh, this is drunk mode. Okay, so there's another mode. This is drunk mode. If you run with this and try to aim at stuff, let's shoot at this rock. Yeah, I probably didn't hit anything. But yeah, this is drunk mode. And if you press F3 again, how many? Oh, is there a 3? Where's the 3D? Where's the third person thing? Okay, well, there used to be a third person mode. I can't seem to really find it anymore. But yeah, with F3 you can kind of switch through different view modes, but that's apparently broken or different than what it used to be. You can also do, for example, env.time, which is an event command, and you could say 00, which will make it dark. Or you can then do env.time 10 to make it morning. Or you could do God 1, which turns on God mode. So if I fly and fall for a very high distance, if I don't get kicked by anti-fly hack, you can see that I have God mode. So that's flying. What you can also do is type, look at where you want something to spawn, and then, for example, type spawn mini C for minicopter, and it will spawn a minicopter. Or if you do spawn rowboat, it will spawn a boat. Or spawn Bradley APC. Yep, it will spawn a Bradley. And this Bradley will just go and go around the land, which we probably don't want. So let's end kill it. You could do a lot of things. You can spawn in whatever you want. There's some weird stuff like spawn platform. What is it called? Platform.entity.ent. And you got yourself a weird platform. Why you would want this? Nobody knows, but you could. So it's good to know, right? I guess. Okay, let's kill it. So there is a lot of stuff you can spawn and do and fly around, and yeah, I think that's the gist of it. Spawning items, comments, yeah, the main comments. So why these comments work in F1 is because I'm admin. What you can also do is put them directly into this black screen. So if I would put in env.time 10, which is probably not the best because it's already morning. Let's do 0, 0. You can see that that also works. So you can also put comments directly into the black screen. What is a better option is to get the RustAdmin. So, you're just going to go to rustadmin.com, download the Rust client over here, and if you run that, we're going to go to configuration, and in the bottom configuration we're going to set it to new configuration, and since it's the first time you probably run it, it will probably say new configuration anyway. We're going to choose WebArchon here at the top, and we're going to open up our start file. So let's go to our server files folder, and let's go to our start file. So it's the procgen1, right click and edit, and this has all the information we need. So our IP is going to be local because it's on our computer. So we're going to use 127.0.0.1, which basically means local hosts or on this computer, and that's exactly where this server is running, so that should work. For port, we can see here it says, why is this so massive? It says over here server port, Archon port. So for server port, here, server port 28015, and for the Archon port, it's at 28016. We double check that. Server port, Archon port 28016. Then it says here, Archon password. So let's just copy this without the quote thingies and paste it over here. Then let's say auto reconnect. So if we close our server and restart it, it will automatically try to reconnect as soon as it can. So we can see the startup of the server happening in the logs. And then at the bottom where it says new configuration, we just click save. We give it a name. So I'll just do tutorial. And then we should be able to go to server and click on connect. And it should say connected at the bottom. So if we click on players, you can see here, this is my username. You can see my Steam ID, and I can also right click on myself and, for example, ban me or kick me, or copy my IP address, copy my nickname, copy my Steam ID, or even teleport me to another player. So if there are more players online, they will appear in this list. So that makes things a lot easier. I can also go to the console and see exactly what's happening. So if I spawn, let's make it day. So let's say I spawn in a minicopter. I can go in here and it says that I spawned in a minicopter with the coordinates. So if you're a server owner, you can see exactly what is going on and also see if one of your admins is doing stuff that is not should be doing. And if people get killed or if stuff like that happens, this all shows up in the console log. You can also go to the chat. So if I say something here, it should show up here in the chat. So there's several ways and statistics, and also if you go to actions, you can, for example, I have a build list, and if I say give to MCP, it will automatically give me all this stuff, and I have my whole inventory full of making electricity bases and messing around. So you can make your own kits in this and then give them to everybody or give them to a certain player. So if you want to mess around building stuff on your own server, you can just make a kit here once, and then every time you connect, just give yourself that kit very fast, and this saves you a lot of time. You can also, if you go to the server config, you can do some stuff like resetting the animals. You can set the server time. You can also change the name, the URL, the description. You can see how many FPS the server is running, which is nice. You can also see that here on the right. So if your server is dipping really low, then there might be something going on. And once again, you can see here that it all shows up in the console what is going on. This makes things a lot easier for you to manage your server without constantly having to type everything in. If you run a command, it will also save it for you, so it's easier you don't have to retype everything. It just makes your life a little bit easier, and it's a really great program. I will probably do a tutorial just on RustAdmin on its own and what kind of things you can do for it. But this is like a simple getting it connected way and kind of a broad overview of what it does, so you can then mess around with it until I make the tutorial. So that's kind of RustAdmin and doing comments, etc. If you, for example, let's close this. And that's not the proper way to close the server. I will show you how to properly close your server in a second. Let's go to this chaos code and let's search for radiation. Let's say I want my server radiation to be off. What I would then do, and I didn't show you that there was radiation, but there is radiation by default, so hopefully you trust me that there was actually radiation on that server before. What I could do is just copy this. I would go to my start file and just somewhere in between. So there's one space here, so just make sure you put it in between that. We're going to put the server.radiation, and we have to put a plus, because you see here every new thing starts with a plus. So I have to put a plus, and then we put false in quotes, and make sure there is a space here and a space here, so you don't mess up the flow. So if you do this, it won't work. Make sure you don't mess up the config. So now if we close it and save it and start it up, it should also take that in consideration, and it shouldn't have any radiation. So there's a whole bunch of things you can configure, like if drop items, like just go through the list and see whatever you find interesting. Like there are too many things to go through, but you can do like how many minicopters spawn, which is like an interesting one. So a lot of things you could change and set up, and that's basically how you go about. So just copy it here, look what the default value is, and paste it into there in the correct order, or in the correct config. Basically, don't mess with the format, and then just put a little plus in front of it. So let's see if that actually worked. If you do use my program, what you can also do is do here add variable. So if you search for radiation here and you type select, it will add it here, and it also puts the default value. So if you then put it here to false and click add and click done, it will also automatically add it to the start file if you click generate. That was my drink. Fuck. Anyway, yeah, you get the gist. Oh no. So this should be done. So let's go back in Rust and just go through our connect. And let's see if the radiation is actually turned off. Okay, let's make it day. And let's fly somewhere that has radiation. Also, as you can see, the quality is pretty terrible. And some people might think that the server is actually running on like some low quality version or settings. But what happened is that because you're already running the server, Rust sees that you're already running some heavy processes on your computer, and it automatically lowers the graphics settings to 0. So what you could do is just up this, wait a little bit before it goes up, before you go to the next level. So give it a second, and then you can go to 2, give it a second. And then if you're lucky, you can go to 3 without it crashing. Yeah, and it should look a little bit better. Your map will still look horrible, but if you rejoin, that will also look better. Anyway, that's why it might look horrible when you're running both at the same time. Just manually put it back to a higher setting, rejoin the game, and you should be fine. So we are admin. Let's fly to a place that has radiation and see. So let's turn off God mode. And I am too cold, so let's give me some. But as you can see, there is no radiation, so the start file setting worked. So if you want to use those variables or start settings, whatever you want to call them, that's how you do that. So if you find a list or like a new something get added and you want to use the command for it, that's how you add it to your start file. Okay, so I guess it's probably time to dive in the most annoying part of the whole tutorial, which is port forwarding. And this is also pretty crucial if you want a server where other people are able to join. So you have to go do this step if you want to have a public server. What we did up to now only works for you or on your network. So if you want to play like on a LAN or like with your little brother or whatever on your home computer, this would work. You do not have to do the next step, what we are going to do right now. But if you want to have other people from the internet or like from outside of your home network join, you will have to do this step. So what we are basically going to do, we are going to log into our router and we are going to tell our router that every connection it gets from the internet, send it to our computer so that our Rust server can pick up that connection and it should all work. Sounds confusing, and the most annoying part is that it will almost look different for everybody because it really depends on what kind of router you have, what kind of interface you will get once you are figuring out how to log in. So I also cannot really help a lot with this step, but I am going to explain what to do and what to look for, and hopefully it does work. I do have a video dedicated to port forwarding, so if you are having trouble, please watch that video first before asking me any questions. And once again, there is a big chance that I will not be able to help you with this because it depends on too many things. But yeah, we will get in there right now and I do as best as I can. If you are using a wire on your computer, an internet wire, you're going to follow that wire until you find a little box. Yeah, that's your router, 9 out of 10 times. You will look on that box to see what kind of brand it is. So a Linksys, a Fritzbox, that's what I have, a Netgear, a whatever brand it is, yeah? You're going to look at it and try to find also the model type. You're then going to go to Google or Yandex, whatever is the Russian equivalent, whatever you use, yeah, your search engine. And you're going to type in port forward, Fritzbox, that's what I have, And I don't know the type out of my head, but whatever type you have. And you will probably find some sort, hopefully, sort of guide, either on this amazing website called portforwarding.com, which has a lot of routers built in brand-wise. This is how many brands there are, and that's not even all of them. So that's why it's so annoying to do this part. And they will tell you how to log in and how to port forward. There is a big chance that also on that box it says username and password. Try that username and password and it will probably allow you to log in to your router. If you didn't set up your router, either your parents, your landlord, whatever, set up that router, ask them for the username and password, or either ask them to set it up for you if they are not comfortable giving you the password or whatever it is. So you need to find out what router you have and how to log in. So for most people, it's 192.168.1.1. And these are also common ones, apparently. So if you go to this, it should, for a lot of people, send you to that login page. For me, it won't. I have to go to fritz.box, and this gives me my login for my router, and this is my router type. So if I put in my password, which I know because I'm the one configuring it, and then as you can see, I can go to permit access and I can set up a port sharing. It's called, for me, for you it might be port triggering, or it might be port forwarding or something like this. So that's also why it's annoying. It's different brands use different terminology. So figure out what you have to do for your router to port forward and then apply the information that I'm about to give you. So if I go to my settings for my device, you can see that it gives my device name, my public, my internal IP. So that starts with 192.168. And it also shows my MAC address, which is not used. You don't need that for now. And then below here, you can see these names, which are horrible examples of how you should name it. But yeah, I can see by the information which is which. You can see that the port 28015 gets UDP. You have my internet IP, which I will be blocking. You see the ports here. The bottom two are for a Minecraft server that I was messing around with. These are the Minecraft ports. Ignore these. We are only interested in this one. And that's the UDP protocol. So we go back to our configuration. It says here server port and Archon port. The server port is for people to connect to your server. So this is port 28015, and this needs the UDP protocol. If you look at this here, it says protocol UDP 28015. So I will now add the 28016, which needs TCP, which is for the RustAdmin tool. So if you want to use this tool, let's say at a friend's house and look at your server, you will need to set up the port forwarding for 28016 as well. If you're not planning on using remote console outside of your computer or outside of your network, you don't have to do this step. You only have to do the 28015 UDP to allow people to join your server. I'm going to do new sharing, and it asks me what kind of application. I'm just going to say other. Once again, this might look totally different for you, but I hope you understand what I'm saying though. I'm going to say Rust TCP and protocol TCP, because it's, I should say, probably Rust Archon. And it says port through port. So it's just 28016 through port 28016 and enable sharing. Yep. And now I set up the Rust Archon TCP. So let's stop the server, restart it so it can reconnect to the Rust server with the new port forward settings. So my philosophy is that once it starts up, it tries to connect to the Rust server and it tries to kind of see if you are correctly port forwarded. And if so, it will add you to the server or allow connections. I don't think it does that in between. Like when it's already running, I don't think it checks constantly to see if you already port forwarded your server. So just after you've done the port forwarding, restart it, and then it should work. And let's see if we then also show up in the browser. There we go. Steam server connected. Should say Bradley spawned. Yeah. So let's see if we can connect now. Yeah, there we go. The comment with my public IP works. Then go to Google and type in what is my IP. Google will already kindly tell me my IP here. And let's also see if we show up in the browser. So if you are at this point, that means you've done the port forwarding correctly. And that also means that your friends should be able to join even if you don't show up in the Rust browser yet. What I think they done when they changed the layout a few updates back, and what I think they did is only show servers that have actual people connected to it, etc. So if there are a tons of empty servers that basically never have people on them, it makes no sense to show those in the server browser. So I think only after a little while of having traction on your server for like a few days, you actually show up. I've had people telling me still they show up instantly. I've had people telling me that it took 2-3 days before they actually showed up. So I can't give a definitive answer on that, but let's look if we also show up. If we refresh this, yeah, there we go. We are now also in the server list. So also through that, you can see our picture and our description, which we didn't really set. That's how you make it public. And this is probably where most people will get stuck. Also, if you've done all the port forwarding and you think you've done it right, the biggest issue people are making is make sure you only give port 28015 UDP and you only give port 28016 TCP. Do not give TCP to port 28015 or it will not work. They say range, they do 28015 through 28016, and then protocol, then a lot of times you have an option saying both. Because sometimes I have 4 options, a lot of people, they only have TCP, UDP, and then both. So people say both, and they think they done it because they did 28015, 28016, and they did UDP and TCP. That's not how to do it. Make sure you make one entry for 28015 UDP and one entry for 28016 TCP. Otherwise, it will not work. If that doesn't make sense, I'm sorry. That's all really I can give you. If you've done this and you're still having issues, what you can do is disable your antivirus, see if it works. Disable your firewall, see if it works. Disable your malware, whatever you have that might be blocking it. Just disable it temporarily. If that is the issue, let's say the firewall is the issue, then turn back on your firewall and try to look through the settings and see what parts of the firewall you have to turn off for it to work, or leave it off completely if you want to, but you are kind of opening up your computer to people. Not really, but technically you are giving them a head start if they really want to do bad things to your computer. So be careful with this. If you are stranded here and you still want to have a server, there will be a link in my video description, to my affiliate link from Game Server Kings. They have Rust server hostings, and I will soon do a tutorial completely on how to work with hosted servers. And if you still want to have a server and you don't want to have the risks of opening up your server, you don't want to leave your screen running 24/7, because as soon as you close this server or screen, your server will not work. So if you want to have a public server, your computer will have to be on and connected to the internet 24/7 with this little thing running. And if your parents don't approve of this or whatever, they might approve of you or them probably spending €9 for a monthly server that is all completely set up. Once again, if you use my affiliate link, that's also how you help out the server. But I genuinely just hope you can follow this tutorial and get it all working. But this is an option for you, and there will be a tutorial out for that as well soon. So we got the server, you are admin, you know how to do some basic admin stuff. Let's step into plugins and do a little bit of basic plugin things and see how you work with plugins. So we have to close our server first to install Oxide, which is the framework that all the plugins work on. So we are going to go to umod and then go to games, click on Rust, and this is where you download the latest version. There's also a Linux build, and sometimes there's a pre-build or whatever. Just make sure you get the master version for Windows. Click on download and open it up. Once it's done, you can see that I have 6 versions, but just by opening it here, I know I have the newest version. Make sure my server isn't running, and just close this. Once again, you need WinRAR. If you saw the beginning of the video, you should have that installed already, or a equivalent program like WinZip or whatever you use. You can see here we have a Rust dedicated data folder, and we also have a Rust dedicated folder in my in our Rust server files. So I'm just going to click it, drag it into the folder of Rust server files, not into this one, just next to it, and it says, hey, I have some files to replace. And we say, yep, replace them all. As soon as we start up our server by doing the start file again, we should get a message saying also that Oxide, here you can see Oxide just popped up. And we should also see here loaded extensions, C#, no, that's not it. Here, loaded plugin Rust by the Oxide team. Oxide and umod are basically the same. So here it just says it's successfully loaded Oxide, but we don't have any plugins yet. So let's just give this a moment to start up, and then we know already that it installed Oxide successfully. It's really that easy. Okay, so it's done. And it used to say like modded over here or over here, but it doesn't do that anymore. But as you saw in the beginning, it did say loaded Oxide, which is umod. It's the same thing. So umod is loaded. We can also verify that by the Oxide folder, which is confusing. But once again, Oxide and umod are exactly the same thing. It used to be Oxide, now they rebranded to umod, but apparently it's not fully integrated into the full plugin or whatever you want to call it, because some parts are still called Oxide. Once again, it's the same thing. So if you go to the Oxide folder, there will be a plugins folder. That's where all you're going to be installing all your plugins. 9 out of 10 plugins will automatically create a config file, which you can then also go into and edit certain settings. You never go into the plugin and change anything in here. You always go to the config or the data or the language, depending on what kind of plugin. So for example, let's connect to our server first. I will just use the browser because we have our server port forwarded. And let's, for example, when I spawn something in, you will get that message in the chat. You might want to remove that. There's a plugin for that. So let's go to umod, let's go to plugins, and let's search for no GIF. And here you have no GIF notices. We just download this and then drag it into our plugins folder. So it's now here. If I go to my server, it should say loaded plugin, no GIF notices by Wolf. If you get any errors, then that means the plugin needs a update or the plugin is corrupted or something. So always check if it loaded correctly. So now if I am in the server and I spawn something, I still get it, but there is no message anymore. So if I spawn in a few CCTVs, I still see it on the right on for myself, but there is no public message showing that I spawned it in, which might look like a admin abuse thing, which on a vanilla server might be true, but on a modded server where you're, for example, setting up shops or setting up events or doing stuff like this or whatever the need of spawning in stuff is, it actually makes sense to not show it constantly in the chat. So it's not always a admin abuse thing, but yes, it could be. But it's still a handy plugin. Nextly, if I, for example, type and say, hello world, you can see that I have a green name because I am admin. Once again, you might not want to show that. So if I go to umod and search for no green, there's a plugin, removes admin green name. And once again, I already have this downloaded. Same thing, just click on it and click download. I already have it here in my downloads, so I'll just drag it in and check if it loaded correctly. Yes, loaded, no green. And then if I now type, automatically I should say have a blue name, so it's not visible that I'm admin anymore. If you want to temporarily disable a plugin, you can either in the black screen say o.unload for oxide.unload and then the name of the plugin, and it has to be with capitals exactly the same. So if you forget what it is, just go to your plugins folder, right click, rename, and copy it. And if I do over here, so o.unload no green, it says unloaded the plugin. And if I now type, I should have a green name again. And if I want to reload, o.reload, same thing. It says loaded, and I should have a blue name again because the plugin is active. So you can disable plugins temporarily by unloading them. And like I said, some plugins have a configuration file. If you are going to change the configuration, always unload the plugin, then make your changes and then reload it. You never want to change the configuration of a plugin while it's running, because then you can get it corrupted. So like I said, unload a plugin. This also works if you're admin in F1. So I can do o.unload no green, and you can see that it would also work if I'm admin, so you don't have to go to the black screen. Same thing for the RustAdmin. I can do here in execute o.reload, and you can see it says all the plugins that I used. So it keeps also track of all the comments you use, which is a big plus of RustAdmin. But in this case, I don't think I have no green in there. So I can do o.reload, and if I go down, it should say here loaded. It should also say here loaded. It doesn't say in your F1 because you don't get all the logs here, but it does work. So now I should have, well, my server's crashing now or lagging or something, but yeah, you get the gist. So some plugins, yeah, it's heavy lagging, I think. Some plugins, they have something which is called permissions, and this is where it gets a little bit more difficult-ish, but it's not that hard if you have the permissions plugin, permissions manager plugin. The permissions manager plugin mysteriously disappeared from UMod, but I still have it, and a lot of other people probably also have it. But still, I will put a download link in the description for that. I hope it gets back on UMod. I don't know why it was removed. It's super handy and it makes life really easy. I have a feeling this guy is trying to sell it and he doesn't want the free version on there, or I don't know why it got removed. But anyway, there will be a link in the description. Definitely 100% install that plugin, and that will make your life so much easier. I will show you now why. So let's go to plugins and let's just see if it's back actually. Permissions manager. Nope. No, so it's still not on the website. So yeah, I'll put the download link in the description. Let's use vanish. Allow players with permission to become truly invisible. That sounds exactly what we would like if we are admin. So let's download it and drag it into our folder. Once again, I already have it in my downloads folder, so I'll just drag it in from there. Vanish, and let's do the permissions manager as well. The permission manager is loaded, vanish is loaded. Let's reconnect to the server because it kicked me out because I was trying to demonstrate things too quick. And let's continue where we were. We now have the permissions manager. So I am in the admins group. If I do Pommes group admin, I get all the plugins that are installed. So in this case, the only ones that have permissions is permissions manager and vanish. I have a full video dedicated to the permission system if this is unclear. So I'm just quickly going over it. If this is still unclear and you don't understand, go watch that video on my channel called Oxide or UMod, the permission system explained, something like this. If I close this and I do /vanish, it says you are missing a permission, vanish.use. So if I do Pommes group admin and go to vanish and give myself that use permission and go back again, now I can go invisible, and you should see that little icon on the bottom left. Maybe here it's a little bit more visible, showing that I'm invisible. And also if I go invisible, you hear a little sound. So if I'm invisible, I should not be able to damage other things because I don't have that permission. Here, you can't build, you can't damage buildings while vanished. So if I go into, Pommes group admin and go into vanish and go in damage buildings, granted. Now I can damage it. So that's how permissions work, and you kind of can set them for either Pommes player and then the player name or Steam ID, or Pommes group, and then admin for all your admins, or default for all the players. So if you want people for whatever reason to have the vanish, you could go to Pommes group default and give them the use for vanish, or probably whatever other plugin, because vanish is not the best one to give everybody. And then if they join, they automatically get added to the default group, and they will automatically have all the permissions that are set to that group. You can also make your own groups. For example, a VIP group, then give all the permissions you want the VIPs to have to that group. And then you either manually or with a paid plugin like TabX or GPay, those will then automatically move those people once a payment has happened to the correct player group, and that will automatically give them the permissions like skip queue or kits or whatever. That's all around the permissions. So once again, I have a full video on the permissions, but this is like the simplest overview of how to get plugins working. So just go to UMod, click on plugins, click on sort by most downloaded, and these are the most downloaded plugins. You can see here also how many times they've been downloaded. Just go through them, right click on them, open a new tab, or just open them directly, whatever you want, and read what they do. If you like it, download it, look at whatever permissions or configurations you can do and set up. I'm going to show you configurations in a sec, but I talked about the permissions. So this has a lot of permissions, this one, and just read on the website what they do and then give them to the player or to the group or admins who need them, and just add the right players to the right groups. And that way you don't have to give every admin that joins, you don't have to give them the permissions manually. You can just give it to the admin group and add the player to the admin group, and that's automatically gives him the permissions for the whole group. So talking about configuration, I just showed you if I go in and out of vanish, it gives the little whoosh sound, and actually that sound also players hear that in game. So I don't want that. I don't. It's not a. It's fun for like scaring people off, but if I just want admin people fly around, etc., and do stuff, I don't want them to hear where I'm going to and going in and out of invisible. So we are going to go to out of our plugins folder. We're going to our config folder and into our vanish. You can just right click and you can open it up with Notepad if that's all you have. I have Notepad++, which I would recommend downloading, which is a free program. So either one, open it up in that, and this should give you some options, and one of them is play sound effect. So I'm going to set that to false, and it says performance mode. I don't know what that does. You can change the URL by changing, or you can change the picture by changing the link here. I'm not really interested in that. You can also give the comment a cooldown. So if you don't want to have people spamming it, there's a few things you can set here, but the only one I'm really interested for now is the play sound. So I'm going to be a good example and do what I told you guys to do. So I'm going to go back to my game, or actually go back to the server so I get some feedback, and type o.unload vanish with a capital V, because that's how the plugin is spelled, otherwise it won't work. And it tells me that it's unloaded the plugin. So now it's safe to save this file. Otherwise it might be corrupted because I'm basically overriding the file that it's using. And then I can reload the plugin. So o.reload vanish capital V. And then if I now go vanish, you see that I still get the little icon showing me that I'm in Vanish, but it doesn't play the sound. So that's how you configure plugins. Just go into the config file, see whatever options you have, and it's usually it's pretty clear. Like false can be true, true can be false, and just look at the default data. Here is everything 0, but if something is 10, if you want to have it 50%, just change it to 5. You know, just mess around with the numbers. Make sure you unload the plugin before you set a new config file for it, and just reload it and see if it does what you want. If not, unload it, change it again. Before we quit this tutorial, I quickly want to go through a few things that you might be wondering, how do I do this? One of the first ones is updating your server. So every Thursday of the month, every first Thursday of the month, there will be a Rust update, or usually 9 out of 10 times there is. And you will have to update your server. If you go to your Steam CMD folder and run the update server or the batch file, which has the installation directory, if you run that, it will check for update. This is the Steam CMD update because I didn't run it for a time. Now it's going to install the Steam CMD update, and then it should search for the Rust update. As you can see here, there is a update, so it's reconfiguring it, it's pre-allocating it, so basically reserving some space on our hard disk. And once that is done and it's checking that we do have enough space on our hard disk, it's going to download it and automatically install whatever you want to call it. It's just downloading the newest versions, the newest files from the Rust server. So if you get a message saying your server's out of date, you need to update, once again, go to your Steam CMD folder and run the update.bat file that you should have created to download the files in the first place. If there's no update, it will say it's up to date and it will just close itself. So you can always check if there's an update, but every Thursday, first Thursday of the month, there should be a update, and this is how you do it. Okay, so as you guys can see, I'm not allowed to join my server. I don't know for what. I'm not even gonna bother. I'm just gonna finish the tutorial real quick. If it's not allowing me to play the game, why should I bother? So, wiping your server really quickly. Go to your server file. Go to the file, the name, whatever the start file is, server, procgen. If you wanna wipe your map, just change the start file to a different seed and a different size. That will change the map, and you should still have the blueprints. If you want to map wipe, just blueprint wipe, just delete all these files, and it should delete all the blueprints. These should be in here, and all the other stats should be deleted as well. Once again, I can't test this. The file names has been changed as far as I can see. It used to be called something else. I can't find it. I can't test it since I cannot join my server. So hopefully that's how you wipe your server. Otherwise, blame Facepunch. I cannot join the game to test it. So next thing, showing up in the list. Once again, I cannot go into the game. So if you want to show up in the browser list, the only thing you will have to do is make sure you port forward it correctly. If you can connect with your direct IP and that works, sorry, your public IP. If you can connect directly with your public IP, then you port forward it correctly. Then your friends should be able to join as well, and it should take up to a few days for your if you keep your server running, and it should take up to a few days for your server to show up in the browser. I think they changed a few things, that if you now have an empty server running, it doesn't automatically or not instantly show up in the server, to keep the server browser more fluid and more responsive, so it isn't loading up 17,000 empty servers and showing you those before it actually shows you a server that you want to play on with players. So if you have an empty server and you only just port forward it, you might not show up in the server. Try to connect directly with your public IP and the port, and if that works, it should take a few hours, few days before you do eventually show up in the browser list. Once again, can't show you. If you didn't notice yet, pretty annoyed. So running custom maps, already have a video for that. I'll link it in the video description. Wanted to show you that you can run 2 servers on the same files. Cannot demonstrate that. And that's it. I'm not even going to bother anymore. So hopefully that's the full tutorial. Thank you guys for watching. Hope this was helpful. I wanted to show you more. I can't. I tried 4 or 5 times. It's not allowing me to join. So thanks for watching. Hope this was helpful. If the beginning, where I was a lot more happier, was helpful, and when I could actually show you stuff, Hopefully in the future I am allowed to join my server and join Rust servers again. Don't know what's going on. So I am planning on making more videos if I can. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm out. Peace.